returning to a subject that is dear to the hearts of everyone in our whole community, our whole area, and that is the subject of hockey. Our guests today are Aaron Bell, who will take us back to the glory days of the Belleville McFarlands that we remember so dearly. Dr. Doc Vaughan, who brought the Belleville Bulls to our city and for 3 decades provided entertainment and excitement for our hockey fans. Dr. Vaughan, everybody just calls you Doc Vaughan. Would you tell us some stories from the Belleville Bulls days?
Well, initially, I was in my office practicing medicine, and Larry Mavety and Jim Dolan came into my office, and they were looking for people who would be interested in being a sponsor to the Bulls. And they were owned at that time by Howard Hazen from Wisconsin. And he had become quickly not enamored of, of having a Belleville-based hockey team, being from Wisconsin. So at any rate, Jack Devine said, you know, Bob Vaughan, he'd probably be interested. And it was busy enough in the office that it didn't take me long to talk to them and say, okay, I'll come up with this much money. And so I became one of the original owners of what was a group of about 10 of us. And by the end of the first season, I think most of them had soured on being owners, and so I bought them out one by one and was the majority owner. And then my next big change in the Belleville Bulls was I happened to be in Montreal and met John Mowat there, a Belleville fellow, and he was a great friend of Walter Gretzky's, and he was having dinner with Walter. And so they called me over in the dining room of the Queen Elizabeth Hotel, and Walter said to me, you know, Wayne's upstairs and he's ill, and he needs to see someone. And I said, well, I could see him, but it'd be after my meeting. I've got to go now and get there. So he said, doesn't matter what time. So I think it was about 2 in the morning. I came back and he was there and he was feeling better. And so Wayne Gretzky became the next morning my partner.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Hi, I'm Wayne Gretzky from Phoenix, Arizona. Sorry I can't be there tonight for Doc Vaughan's special evening, but I just wanted to say how much of a pleasure it was for me to be involved with the Belleville Bulls and how much he meant to hockey and to the Belleville community. Congratulations to the entire Vaughan family.
He had me call Dolan in the middle of the night, and he came down the next morning on the early morning train, and before the day was over, he was my new partner. Ah. So I had the great fortune of being a good friend of Bobby Hull's, and then of being a partner with Wayne Gretzky, and then Gordie Howe I'd met as a child because he came here. He's not that many years older than I am, but he came here every year to fish, and so I had met him. So interestingly, Hull, Gretzky, and Howe, you can't beat that.
Not bad.
Good people to call friends.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
It'd be a pretty good line if you could ever get that together. Yeah.
I see. So this went on for three decades, 30 years the Bulls were in Belleville.
Yeah, of course Wayne wasn't with us for only 2 seasons, but it was an interesting experience. And I still count him as a friend, and I'm sure he counts me as a friend. And all the Gretzkys, except one, played for us, so we have 3 of the Gretzkys as players, and you know, a pretty good hockey name to have as alumni from your team.
But in later years, you also had some other families in the Bulls team, the Subans, which of course they're all still active in hockey now, and when we see them, you know, on the television or whatever, we say, those are Belleville boys.
Yeah.
And we still take credit for they learned their hockey here in Belleville, which was no small matter.
Yeah, you ask about the success that they had here, and I know Doc's way too modest to say
Yes.
this, but there's no one more highly regarded around the Board of Governors table at the
Agreed.
Ontario Hockey League. I got the opportunity to work in that office for a long time, and the things that Doc brought, not just to the Bulls, but to the whole league, he always really had a great ability to see where the league could go, and is a big part of the responsibility of where the league is at today. And you know, did some very interesting things along the way. One of which is that I've always remembered very fondly is the introduction of both the Wayne Gretzky and the Bobby Orr Trophy, which are today presented to the Eastern and Western Conference champions every year, and that came from Doc Vaughan and his vision of, hey, you know, what can we do to make this league even better? And I think that really, at the end of the day, that's what made that successful. This has always been one of the smallest markets in that league, and as we are today in the American Hockey League. And but it didn't matter. I remember the banner hanging up there saying that you know, we had the best fans in the league and the loudest fans, and a lot of that was I think directly attributed to Doc and his vision for what this community could support from a hockey standpoint.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, and you know that, and again, Doc, I'm very honored to be here with you again today, but it was a great moment to see the Sports Hall of Fame honoring you appropriately, and to see the people who showed up, and to see the accolades that were thrown on you. And I know you don't take that well either, and your modesty is one of your greatest attributes, but I have to say that it was time for the city to give you an appropriate recognition as well. And I think that it was really great that we had that opportunity to put the Sports Hall of Fame within the busiest place in our town right now, and was as well the home for the Bulls for many years, with an extension, obviously, the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center onto the Yardman. But it felt great to have you there. It was great to have your name on the atrium, and it was really great to have that evening, that afternoon, and then to see David Branch come. And it was funny because, as you know, the Bulls leaving was a tear at everybody's heart here. And I remember the phone call and then not the phone call, the visit from the owner at the time at 3:15, March 12th. Not that I remember that very well, but I remember the feeling. And from that point on, it was as though we'd lost a great family member, like one of our own. And that was thanks to you. And that was really your legacy. And when, you know, it's a negative way of showing, but it's a positive thing in the end, because to this day, the measure, the benchmark, no matter where you go, either speaking of OHL, Belleville, whatever that may be, but when we speak of hockey, we think of Doc Vaughan. So it was a great day to see your name on that atrium.
Thank
It
you.
was.